In a dimly lit apartment, persistent knocking resonates from the door.
Hana investigates and hears a growling noise, prompting her to grab her gun and wait. Suddenly, a monster breaks through the door, ready to attack, but Hana swiftly shoots it down. Soon, more monsters invade the apartment, but Hana, with perfect aim, takes them out.
She remains unflustered as even more beasts flood the corridor and burst inside. Hana continues firing without hesitation, reloading quickly whenever she runs out of bullets.
The relentless monsters eventually corner her on her bed, where she abruptly asks them to stop. It turns out to be a video game, and she notices a glitched monster, so she informs the creator. Before ending the call, the creator invites her to join a tournament, but she declines, knowing she has no chance of winning. Hana works as a professional video game player and tester, which doesn't always pay well but is ideal for her because she suffers from agoraphobia, a fear of leaving her home. This is why her door has numerous locks, including an electronic one with a password. After a long day of testing a virtual reality game, she comforts herself by playing Tetris on her old Game Boy. Later, the mailman arrives with a package and requests her signature. Hana asks him to leave the package and the device in front of the door and hide, which he does after some hesitation.
Hana peeks out to sign on the device.
At that moment, a little girl appears in the corridor and asks why Hana is scared and to enter the apartment, which Hana declines. The mailman urges her to hurry, so Hana takes her package and retreats inside, noticing the little girl is gone. The interaction triggers her anxiety, so she locks the door quickly before having a breakdown. Once she feels better, Hana calls a friend to share that she got early access to the latest gaming controller and invites her to play. While waiting, Hana exercises to stay in shape since she can't go out.
Eventually, her friend arrives and texts Hana instead of knocking.
Hana unlocks the door and hides, allowing Jen to come in and close the door without triggering a panic attack.
After dropping off groceries for Hana, they open the package together, finding a strange-looking headband named Omnia with no instructions.
When Hana presses the button, the device connects to her computer and opens its software. Hana logs in with the device number, and an AI voice welcomes her to Omnia, asking her to wear the headband. Once Hana puts it on, the AI explains the device can read, measure, and decode her brain patterns. The images on the screen show a real-time recording of her brain activity, and it can control any other device or software, reducing her reaction time to 0 in gaming. First, they need to calibrate it, so Hana starts the exercises while Jen cooks meals to keep Hana fed for a few days. The first exercise involves typing, so Hana presses the letters appearing on the screen. Initially using her fingers, the machine eventually learns how she thinks, and she can type words by merely thinking them. Hana becomes obsessed and ignores the food. At that moment, the landlord knocks on the door, asking for the rent money, so Jen tells him to go away as Hana doesn't hear the knock. Jen announces she must leave, and Hana finally gets off the chair to see her out, but the exercise on the screen continues. When the computer switches to the second exercise, the power goes out briefly before returning to normal.
Hana resumes the calibration, now using the mouse.
For several hours, Hana focuses solely on calibrating the device, testing other peripherals like headphones and a microphone. Whenever she gets sleepy, she drinks energy drinks to stay awake, prompting the AI to point out her slowing reaction time and advise her to rest. Hana goes to sleep, but the device continues reading her brain patterns, and the speakers play static noises. In her dreams, she has a strange vision of a child's hand and a bird in a cage. Hana wakes up horrified to find her gums bleeding. As she stares in the mirror, the little girl from yesterday knocks on her door, asking to play because there are no other kids in the building. Hana explains she can't and shares stories of her childhood when her mother wouldn't let her out, making her a fan of video games and addicted to Tetris. She offers to lend Tetris to the girl, but there's no response. Feeling nostalgic, Hana searches for an old box in her closet and looks at childhood pictures, crying as she remembers playing with her dad in the rain. She still has the ball from those days, and when Jen visits again, they use it for the device's calibration exercise on reflexes and depth perception. Jen gets bored and throws the ball on the bed while Hana mentions music, causing the device to play songs through the speakers.
They have fun dancing together. Moments later, the next exercise involves pain.
Jen refuses to help and leaves, so Hana does it herself, using a tool to make a small cut, completing the calibration process. The AI explains the device will continue to learn the more Hana uses it.
Hana tends to her wound and finally eats something before grabbing energy drinks and returning to the computer.
She starts playing the game normally but soon controls everything with her mind, as promised, winning every match with flawless reaction time. Meanwhile, in her room, the bedsheets move, and a mysterious hand grabs the ball.
Hana hears a noise and checks, but there's nothing there. She keeps playing for hours and decides to enter the tournament under a nickname.
The ball rolls on the floor behind her, and just as she's about to pick it up, a sudden knock startles her.
It's the landlord asking for rent. Hana asks for more time, realizing she's lost track of time, thinking Jen promised the money yesterday.
Hana returns to the living room, noticing the ball has disappeared. Later, she goes through her exercise routine, unaware of the strange ghost appearing in her room. During her next shower, she finds her mouth bleeding more heavily, and her face becomes monstrous in the mirror, but it's a nightmare. Trying to calm down, she notices the ball reappearing in the living room. While she focuses on it, the ghost appears behind her but goes unseen. Worried, Hana uses her mind to activate her phone and calls Jen, apologizing for her behavior and asking her to come over. Hana puts on her VR set and waves her hand over the ball, causing it to disappear and reappear, transforming into a bird that flies around before returning to the floor as a ball. When Jen arrives, Hana is working on her computer to enhance its performance, aiming to match her new gaming speed and win the tournament's $250,000 prize. Hana convinces Jen to bet money on her, confident in her victory. 6 hours later, the tournament begins, and Hana easily defeats every opponent, earning Jen substantial winnings. Suddenly, something appears on the screen, and a hand reaches out, trying to grab Hana, who immediately steps away. The hand vanishes quickly, leaving Jen confused as she didn't see anything. Feeling anxious, Hana asks Jen to play for her while she takes a break. Removing the headband, Hana goes to the bathroom and takes medication to prevent a breakdown. She feels her arm itching and finds a nasty wound under her band-aid. While Hana cries, Jen informs her she passed to the next round despite not winning the match. Jen reassures Hana of her support, but Hana stays silent. After emerging, they play retro video games, and Hana shares the story of the little girl, which Jen finds odd as she knows of no children in the building. Hana confesses her mother was also agoraphobic, and it seems to run in her genes. Feeling guilty for becoming like her mother, Hana refuses Jen's offer to help her leave the apartment. After Jen falls asleep, Hana distracts herself with Tetris, unaware of the walls and objects in her apartment disintegrating into floating cubes. The next morning, Jen notices Hana looks exhausted, unsure if she slept. After Jen leaves for work, Hana hears chatter and sees a shadow outside her door. The little girl speaks, and Hana offers to lend her a game, but discovers the door is open. Terrified, Hana gathers her courage and steps into the corridor, hearing the girl giggling. She hesitantly takes another step, only for the door to close behind her. Panicking, Hana desperately tries to open it, but it's locked, requiring her key and dealing with the security chain. The lights flicker, and the ghost appears in the corridor, screaming like a banshee. Horrified, Hana keeps hitting the door until she bursts inside, quickly closing it before having a breakdown. After calming down, she calls Omnia to ask if other testers have experienced side effects. They assure her that if her diagnostics were fine, the device isn't at fault, but offer to take it back for repair. Determined to win the tournament, Hana keeps the device. She continues playing and reaches the top 3 in the tournament rankings. Exhausted, she falls asleep on her chair, dropping the ball. The computer shuts down, and darkness envelopes the apartment. Hana wakes up to an empty room, but when she turns, the little girl says, "We've always been here." The ghost surrounds the girl and screams, causing the room to shake. Hana covers her ears in pain as the noise makes her float before dropping her after a few seconds. The computer reactivates, and the girl and ghost vanish. Later, Jen comes to watch Hana win the final round and become the tournament champion. Hana is tired and falls asleep on the chair, but hugs Jen and celebrates her victory. She has a vision of a bloodstained screwdriver and wakes up, unsure what's real. Hana closes her eyes again, this time seeing her mother in the vision. The end.